What is going on, everybody? I'm having all kinds of trouble over here. Already.
One of the days.
Losing all my bookmarks. I know where that one was. What did I have this one here for? Oh, okay. I can take a look at that. Alright. So, welcome back to the Uncommon Life Podcast. I'm Corey.
I'm Jack.
And last time we went over Saul and Samuel. And there were a lot of times where I said Samuel where I meant Saul, or I said Saul where I meant Samuel. And there were even some times that I threw in Solomon in there. I don't know where that came from.
Oh, it was the law in there.
But,
John Jay.
I
They don't matter.
think everybody understood.
I can't keep up with names.
I'm horrible with it. But today we're going to be going over Joseph and the coat of many colors.
And we said last time that would be an easy one, and boy, was I wrong.
I don't think we said it would be easy. We definitely said it would be a good one.
It said it would be a good one. I had no idea. As many times as I've heard this story, never did I ever get this detailed into it, and boy.
Yeah, there's a lot in here. A lot. And this is another one of those that we all have heard or at least gone over in Sunday school, at least Bible school, stuff like that. As like children's lessons. But
And I've even taught them out of the little books that you get in Baptist churches. And it never went this far into detail. I never really went back and researched it that much.
Yeah.
And
it's
mercy.
so from what I remember from Sunday school, Bible school, places that I was told this and told the story as a child, young adult. It was made to be a story about jealousy.
Jealousy.
About what happens to you not even what happens to you, it's just what not to do, really. It's
Almost
just
a little bug you let it get in us.
Yeah, which that is a part of the story, but it's such a small part of the story.
It is.
But we're going to get into it here in just a second. First off, I want to say that I told some people that this episode will be going up tomorrow, but we decided to do something a little bit different. We're going to do some music, some reactions to some music that you guys may have never heard, some that we may have never heard before. So I may put one of those up tomorrow. Honestly, the reason that we're going to do this is because, one, it might give some people some more music to listen to, some different music to listen to. And two, it's going to make, we haven't put up a video in 2 weeks, and I'm trying to put up videos every week, so I know, it's been busy. But this is something that should be fairly simple, that I feel like we can still get some quality content out of.
Sounds good.
And not just for you, for us as well.
Oh, absolutely. I know Corey's got some stuff that he's going to present that I've never heard probably.
Mm-hmm.
And he's asked me to go up a couple of things, and even though we kind of talk about not doing the typical hymnal type stuff, I've got one that God's laying on my heart, and I think it's neat to go with it, and then we'll try to get away from that.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. If you guys have suggestions that you guys want us to listen to, please tell us, because it would be amazing if we had something that neither of us has heard.
Absolutely, we would love to have some suggestions on anything, even a topic in the Bible that you'd like to.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be music, you know, it could be a short clip or something. Something that we can give ourselves a little bit of a buffer with, and also, as I said, it makes good content. Gives some people some new music to listen to, stuff like that. New ways of worship. But with that said, we're going to go ahead and jump into Joseph and the Code of Many Colors. Now, like I said, this is a story that's about so much more than jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we're going to be kind of skipping around a little bit. Not too much, honestly. There's going to be a lot of reading. My throat's already dry. My mouth's already dry.
It's patient.
Mm.
Anticipation. Be quiet. We've got a visitor tonight. Quiet other manners.
So we're going to start in Genesis chapter 37 with Joseph's dream.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so Jacob settled in the land of Canaan, where his father had lived as a foreigner. This is the account of Jacob and his family when Joseph was 17 years old. Excuse me. When Joseph was 17 years old, he often tended his father's flocks. He worked for his half-brothers and the sons of his father's wives, Bilhah and Zilpah. But Joseph reported to his father some of the bad things his brothers were doing. I have to say, what is these names?
It's names of the time.
I mean, I get it. It's from different times. It's from a different culture.
I can't pronounce them.
You guys should have to bear with me on some of these names.
As an old woman used to teach me when she was trying to get me to read the Bible when I was a kid, she just said, skip a word. You get one you don't know, just say, skip a word and go on.
Yeah. So Jacob, which is Joseph's father, loved Joseph more than any of his other children because Joseph had been born to him in his old age. So one day Jacob had a special gift made for Joseph, a beautiful robe. But his brothers hated Joseph because their father loved him more than the rest of them. They couldn't say a kind word to him. Now, difference one, this doesn't say it was a coat of many colors. And I went back to the King James Version. It says the same thing.
I did the same thing.
And I went back to the what's it called? The other Bible.
Well, we got
the really old Bible. It's literally in Old English.
it's
No V's or U's, and the Geneva Bible. That's in Geneva. And it says more or less the same thing. So
this one, let me find
it may or may not have been a coat of many colors. It was just a beautiful robe.
This one, I have to find it in lost my place.
That is verse 3.
Not just more than all of his other sons, because he was a son of his old age, and he made him a multicolored tourniquet. Is what this one says.
Okay. So I didn't have it. You've got the American Standard Version. And I don't have it. That's the translation that I like to study out of. But I don't have one.
So it was either a tourniquet or a robe or a coat.
Yeah. Yours says what now?
Tourniquet.
No, multicolored tourniquet. Okay. So see, mine doesn't say multicolored. It just says a beautiful robe. Yeah. Nonetheless,
Nonetheless.
Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children because Joseph had been born to him in his old age. And
Yeah, I
gave
even
him
looked and tried to find an age, I didn't find.
16.
No, I know Joseph,
Well, he was 16 at the time.
but what was his father's age?
Of that I don't
It
know.
says old age, and I looked, I couldn't find that.
That I don't know. But either way, Jacob was, he loved Joseph more than any of his other children, and gave him a special gift of a beautiful robe, a multicolored tourniquet, a beautiful garment of whatever sort.
Yeah. But he gave him something special.
Yeah.
And evidently it was attractive,
Enough,
colorful, whatever you want to call it.
enough to, not just because of the robe, but also because they knew that Jacob loved Joseph more. It caused his brothers to hate him.
Mhm.
It literally says hated Joseph.
Mhm.
His brothers hated Joseph.
And that's a strong word
Yeah.
for a brother. It's a word I don't, well, I guess I do understand.
Yeah. It even says they couldn't say a kind word to him.
Now, there was a lot of years between me and my brother. My brother's passed on, and for several years now. And I'm not going to say I hated him, but I strongly disliked him. So just put it that way. I tried to love him because I tells me to, but so I kind of halfway understand not liking, not really hating, but anyway. But there were several years difference in my older brother and myself.
Okay, so when we go on to verse 5, chapter 37, verse 5. One night Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him more than ever. Listen to this dream, he said. We were out in the field tying up bundles of grain. Suddenly my bundle stood up, and your bundles all gathered around and bowed low before mine. His brothers responded, so you think you will be our king, do you? Do you actually think that you will reign over us? And they hated him all the more because of his dreams and the way he talked about them. Soon Joseph had another dream, and again he told his brothers about it. Listen, I have had another dream, he said. The sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed low before me. This time he told the dream to his father as well as to his brothers. But his father scolded him. What kind of dream is that? He asked. Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow to the ground before you? But while his brothers were jealous of Joseph, his father wondered what the dreams meant. Soon after this, Joseph's brothers went to pasture their father's flocks at Shechem. At Shechem.
Yeah, that sounds pretty close.
When they had been gone for some time, Jacob said to Joseph, your brothers are pasturing the sheep at Shechem. Get ready, and I will send you to them. I am ready to go, Joseph replied. Go and see how your brothers and the flocks are getting along, Jacob said. Then come back and bring me a report. So Jacob sent him on his way, and Joseph traveled to Shechem from their home in the valley of Hebron. When he arrived there, a man from the area noticed him wandering around the countryside. What are you looking for? He asked. I'm looking for my brothers, Joseph replied. Do you know where they are pasturing the sheep? Yes, the man told him. They have moved on from here, but I heard them say, let's go to Dothan. So Joseph followed his brothers to Dothan and found them there. All right, so he's going to see how his brothers are doing with sheep, and then he's going to come back, report to his father. Simple enough.
Yeah, pretty simple task.
Now, we're starting to get into the meat of the story here.
Mm-hmm.
In verse 18, when Joseph's brothers saw him coming, they recognized him in the distance as he approached, and made plans to kill him.
Pretty strong.
Yeah. I told you we were getting into the meaning of it.
Yeah. I mean, they hated him enough, they were going to kill him just to get rid of him.
Yeah, just to get rid of him. Here comes the dreamer, they said. Come on, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns. We can tell our father a wild animal is eating him. Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams. Okay, so they're mocking him.
Mm-hmm.
But when Reuben heard of their scheme, he came to Joseph's rescue. Let's not kill him, he said. Why should we shed any blood? Let's just throw him into the empty cistern here in the wilderness. Then he'll die without our laying hand on him. Reuben was secretly planning to rescue Joseph and return him to his father. So when Joseph arrived, his brothers ripped off the beautiful robe he was wearing. Then they grabbed him and threw him into the cistern. Now the cistern was empty. There was no water in it. Then just as they were sitting down to eat, they looked up and saw a caravan of camels in the distance coming towards them. It was a group of Ishmaelites, traders, taking a load of gum, balm, and aromatic resin from Gilead down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, "What will we gain by killing our brother? We'd have to cover up the crime. Instead of hurting him, let's sell him to those Ishmaelite traders. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood." And his brothers agreed. So when the Ishmaelites, who were Midianite traders, came by Joseph's brothers, pulled him out of the cistern and sold him for 20 pieces of silver, and the traders took him to Egypt.
Mm.
Sometime later, Reuben returned to get Joseph out of the cistern. When he discovered that Joseph was missing, he tore his clothes in grief. Then went back to his brothers and lamented. "The boy is gone. What will I do now?" When the brothers killed the young goat and dipped Joseph's robe in its blood, they sent the beautiful robe to their father with this message: "Look at what we found. Doesn't this robe belong to your son?" Their father recognized it immediately. "Yes," he said, "it is my son's robe. A wild animal must have eaten him. Jacob has clearly been torn to pieces." Then Jacob tore his clothes and dressed himself in burlap. He mourned deeply for his son for a long time. His family all tried to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. "I will go to my grave mourning for my son," he would say, and then he would weep. Meanwhile, the Midianite traders arrived in Egypt, where they sold Joseph to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Potiphar was a captain of the palace guard. So, at least they didn't kill him.
They didn't kill him, they sold him off as we're going to buy him as a slave. I mean, that was the only reason to sell someone would be for slavery.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to get him out of the picture, get him away so that they gain more attention to their father.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of a cruel way to try to gain more attention to me.
Yeah. And I will say that of every lesson that I can remember, well, I'm not going to say that I was never taught the rest of the story, but that is basically what was taught. Just that chapter, really.
Just that little bit, yeah. Now, I want to get down a little bit further. I may be getting ahead of things.
Go for it.
But here where his father finds out that his son has possibly been, it says in this one, devoured by vicious animals. I mean, just kind of think about it, if one of your children was wearing the clothing of another child with blood all over it, what would be your first thoughts? yeah, died, dead. But then it's gonna go through your mind the vicious death that they went through, whether it be by, I'll say, four-legged animal or two-legged animal. And he said he dressed himself in, I think he said burlap.
Mm-hmm.
My Bible says sackcloth. How many of you actually know what burlap is? Or sackcloth? Sackcloth is basically pretty much the same thing as burlap, mostly dried glass. Dried grass that's been woven together. This one says even down to his undergarments. Can you imagine how rough this material is against your skin? It kind of makes me wonder why Joseph stripped himself down and dressed him in burlap or in sackcloth, other than to kind of somewhat feel the pain that his son may have went through. Because I can tell you right now, it's just like wearing sandpaper. You're gonna have rashes all over you really quick. And I don't quite understand the reasoning for him doing that, but still trying to understand how he felt or why he wanted to do this. Just over his waist. Mourning for his son for many days. And then all of his sons and all of his daughters came to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. I don't know. It's kind of gets deep for me. I don't know about anybody else, but myself as having more than one child, I kind of understand the father's viewpoint of it, but I don't understand his mourning part. Maybe somebody could help me understand that.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure why he would tear his clothes and then dress himself in burlap. I don't know. That's one of those things that I wish I had researched, but whenever I was reading and studying, it just didn't really. I don't know. I just didn't think about it.
Yeah,
it was just okay. Well, he did that.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah.
I don't understand why he felt the need to do that. I just say that so his father wept for him for many days, and then I was reading his reviews. I don't know if he's read this part or not, but then the Midianites sold him in Egypt to one of the names I can't pronounce, officers of the captain of the bodyguards. So he was sold to the Midianites, and then the Midianites sold him to Egypt. Sold him in Egypt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you can imagine how he felt, that his brothers hated him enough that they betrayed him. Presented his father with his clothing that he had been given to presume he was dead, so he wouldn't go looking for him. And then being sold as a slave, and then not just being sold one time, but being sold again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you know, I'm sure there was some, you know, heartbreak there. He probably felt down on himself for a little while. But we're fixing to read about how Joseph dealt with,
Right.
or how he dealt with it. Not really how he dealt with it, but Yeah. So we're going to go on to chapter 39. We're going to skip over 38. Now, 38 is about Judah and Tamar. And which Judah is one of Joseph's brothers. But we're going to skip over that and we're going to go to chapter 39. And we're going to do the whole thing. We've got at least 3 more chapters here after 39, but we're going to read the whole thing. So, we're at 25 minutes. This may not be quite as long as the, of course we haven't. Okay. 39. When Joseph was taken to Egypt by the Ishmaelite traders, he was purchased by Potiphar. And, is that right? Yeah, Potiphar.
That's what I'm missing.
An Egyptian officer. Potiphar was captain of the guard for Pharaoh, king of Egypt. The Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the home of his Egyptian master. Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything he did. This pleased Potiphar, so he soon made Joseph his personal attendant. He put him in charge of his entire household, and everything he owned. From the day Joseph was put in charge of his master's household and property, the Lord began to bless Potiphar's household for Joseph's sake. All his household affairs ran smoothly, and his crops and livestock flourished. So Potiphar gave Joseph complete administrative responsibility over everything he owned, with Joseph there. With Joseph there, he didn't worry about a thing except what kind of food to eat. Wouldn't that be awesome? If the only thing I had to worry about was what kind of food I'm going to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph was a very handsome and well-built young man, and Potiphar's wife soon began to look at him lustfully. "Come and sleep with me," she demanded, but Joseph refused. "Look," he told her, "my master trusts me with everything in his entire household. No one here has more authority than I do. He has held back nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing? It would be a great sin against God." Verse 10. She kept putting pressure on Joseph day after day, and he refused to sleep with her. And he kept out of her way as much as possible. I don't know, are you hearing this?
Yes.
I don't know what that is.
Static or whatever it is, yeah.
You know what?
There you go. Technology working. No? Yeah, you move it around, I can hear it.
Okay.
Technology working.
Now,
Now,
where was I?
Somewhere about verse 10 or 11.
I think we were on verse 11. One day, however, no one else was around when he went in to do his work. She came and grabbed him by his cloak, demanding, "Come on, sleep with me." Joseph tore himself away, but he left his cloak in her hands as he ran from the house. When she saw that she was holding on to his cloak and he had fled, she called out to her servants. Soon all the men came running. "Look," she said, "my husband has brought this Hebrew slave here to make fools of us. He came in my room to rape me, but I screamed. When he heard me scream, he ran outside and got away, but he left his cloak behind with me." She kept the cloak for her until she kept the cloak with her until her husband came home. I don't know why I had such a hard time reading that. Then she told him her story. "That Hebrew slave you brought into our house tried to come in and fool around with me," she said. But when I screamed, he ran outside, leaving his cloak with me. Alright, so now we got lies being told.
Lies being told, yeah.
And this, let's see. Does it get into this? Yes. Now this, I think, is one of the best parts of the story. For me. Verse 19. Potiphar was furious when he heard his wife's story about how Joseph had treated her. So he took Joseph and threw him into prison, into the prison where the king's prisoners were held, and there he remained. I promise it gets better. But the Lord was with Joseph in the prison and showed him his faithful love. And the Lord made Joseph a favorite with the prison warden. But before long, the warden put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners and over everything that happened in the prison. The warden had no more worries because Joseph took care of everything. The Lord was with him and caused everything he did to succeed. Well, there's our answer right there.
Yeah, so Joseph stayed faithful.
Joseph stays faithful, and he succeeds in everything that he does because he has the Lord with him. And the thing that, so as Christians, we all accept Jesus, and we all have a piece of Jesus within us.
Within us, the Spirit is within us.
So Jesus is always with us. All we have to do is keep the faith, which is sometimes the hardest thing to do because faith is not something that's learned, really, I guess. Faith is something that you're born with, but it's hard to, we have to keep reminding ourselves to have faith.
Right, to be true ourselves. We've been talking about some in the church today. Standing strong and not being discouraged and staying within the faith. Just because God doesn't stand at exactly what we think He ought to sometimes, doesn't mean He's not there. And I think Joseph here just, he showed witness of that. Even though all these bad things were happening to him, he never gave up his faith for God. He always followed His leadership and stayed faithful to God. And
There's a guy that I listen to. He's an amazing speaker. He's an amazing interviewer. But he said recently in one of his podcasts, and I really like it, so I'm going to say it. I think he said that he heard it from someone else. He heard it from another speaker. I don't know who he was talking about, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. He said, God can give you the vision. He can show you the end goal, but He's not going to tell you how to get there because that's between you, God, and you have to have the faith to trust God to get you there.
right,
But you're going to have to put in work to get there.
right.
But you also have to have that faith. I'm butchering it, I know.
No,
But-
you've actually got the point where God intends for us to have it, and we can see that light in the tunnel. But we have to choose which path we're going to take to get to that light. And sometimes it's hard for us to see that straight path is the best way.
Yeah.
Sometimes we want to veer off that path and say, oh, that's where we're going with it. Let's go over here for a while.
Yeah.
And, well, we lose a lot of blessings by not following that straight path that God leads for us or lays down for us.
Yeah.
We get sidetracked sometimes.
But and also at the same time, we have to, when we're having all these troubles in our life, or another thing that he says that I really like is we have to stop telling God how big our problems are and start showing our problems how big our God is.
It's really good. That's a good way.
I absolutely love that. That's
a good way of putting it there.
one of my favorite quotes that I've ever heard.
Yeah, but we're trying to tell God already knows.
Yeah, he already knows.
But he knows the trouble, the problem,
And
he is.
the thing is, he made us from the dirt of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Our problems are nothing to him.
No. Our problem
Um,
is just a blink in his eye.
But also, going along with that, where I was going was, a lot of times when we're having these problems and stuff, we need to take a second, step back, examine what's going on, and a lot of the time realize that God is doing exactly what we've asked Him to do. In other words, you can pray to be rich, right? And if God decides, if God decides that He wants you to be rich, then he might need to put you through being broke, like completely broke, because if you're not, then you're not going to understand what it means.
Yeah,
You're not going to understand the real worth. Or if you pray to God that you want to be a great man, then you're going to have to go through things that are going to make you a great man.
Right.
We have to put in the work, just like Joseph is putting in work. There's no way that. It doesn't go into great detail here, but there's no way that he would just put it in there in the prison and everything just started going good. No, Joseph was working.
Yeah, he had been there for a while to gain that kind of trust in guards, to gain that trust in his master. He was there for a while. That scripture makes it sound like it was just a couple of days or so, but I would say probably months, if not years.
Yeah. What I'm trying to get around to, is that sometimes we can be faithful and still get thrown in prison.
Right.
But we have to keep that faith, because just because we're in the prison, that doesn't mean that God's done with us.
That's right.
It means God's putting us through something. He's putting us through an experience that we need to reach that end goal.
Right. And I'm a firm believer that sometimes God puts us through something to make us stronger, and even if we can help someone else through.
Yeah.
Because I've been through a lot of things in my life, and I didn't or haven't, and sometimes I still don't understand. But after a little bit of time, I can see why. I begin to understand why. And most of the time it's because I'm running on somebody that's going through the same problem. And they got ready to give up, and you're able to give them a word of encouragement or be able to help them. So I'm sort of a believer that you can't sympathize with somebody unless you experienced it. So, in fact, I've even talked to guys that were sent to prison, and that's where they found God. And sometimes I've heard people say before, sometimes God's going to put you on your back so you can look up.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to reach the lowest lows to be able to get to the highest highs.
Right.
So, all of that to say, Joseph is in prison. He's put in charge of the prison.
Yeah, starting off,
Basically.
looked like a great life. His father taking care of him well, he was his favorite. Sounded like he was some of the best of the best and treated him well, and then he ended up as a prisoner and even in prison. So,
So, we move on to, I've got here, for some reason, let me just skim this real quick, because for some reason, I've got that we're going going to skip over 40,
Okay.
but I don't think that we need to, because this is important. We need chapter 40. What in the world? I was probably half asleep or something. Okay, chapter 40. Joseph interprets two dreams. Now he has had dreams before. He had two dreams before. If you remember back in 37, chapter 37, he had a dream that basically his family was going to bow down to him. But he's not interpreted dreams yet. But apparently he's fixing to get that gift.
Yeah, I've had some dreams that I'd like to be interpreted.
Here, Mike.
And maybe got some dreams I would like to have interpreted. Some dreams I probably wouldn't want interpreted, but probably scare me to death.
So, chapter 40. I don't mean to snap at you guys, I don't know.
That's just way. Overlooking.
Okay, so, going off track here. Instead of teaching my dog to come when I whistle, to come to me when I whistle, I taught him to come to me when I snap.
And he won't listen to that.
And that's just, now I do it all the time. I just snap at everything.
My quick finger will do that, so he won't listen.
Yeah, I mean, he's, going on 12, 13 now.
Yeah, he's pushing 13.
Yeah. So I've been doing that for 13 years. When I want to get his attention, it's just habit, I guess.
And they call you that way.
Yeah. All right, let's get into chapter 40 before we have a 6-hour video. All right. Sometime later, Pharaoh's chief cupbearer. You got me all messed up. Sometime later, Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and chief baker offended their royal master. Pharaoh became very angry with these two officials and put them in the prison where Joseph was, in the palace. In the palace of captain of the guard. Okay. They remained in prison for quite some time, and the captain of the guard assigned them to Joseph, who looked after them. While they were in the prison, Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker each had a dream one night, and each dream had its own meaning. When Joseph saw them the next morning, he noticed that they were both upset. "Why do you look so worried today?" he asked them. And they replied, "We both had dreams last night, but no one can tell us what they mean." So Joseph says, come on. Interpreting dreams is God's business, Joseph replied. Go ahead and tell me your dreams. So the chief cupbearer told Joseph his dream first. In my dream, he said, I saw a grapevine in front of me, and the vine had 3 branches that began to bud and blossom. And soon it produced clusters of ripe grapes. I was holding Pharaoh's wine cup in my hand, so I took a cluster of the grapes and squeezed the juice into my cup, or into the cup. Then I placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. This is what the dream means, Joseph said. The 3 branches represent 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift you up and restore you to your position as chief cupbearer. And then please remember me and do me a favor when things go well for you. Mention me to Pharaoh so that he might let me out of this place. For I was kidnapped from my homeland, the land of the Hebrews, and now I'm here in prison, but I did nothing to deserve it. When the chief baker saw that Joseph had given the first dream such positive interpretation, he said to Joseph, I had a dream too. In my dream, there were 3 baskets of white pastry stacked on my head. The top basket contained all kinds of pastries for Pharaoh. But the birds came and ate them from the basket on my head. This is what the dream means, Joseph told him. The 3 baskets also represent 3 days. 3 days from now, Pharaoh will lift you up and impale your body on a pole. Then the birds will come and peck away at your flesh. That's ruthless.
Yes.
Pharaoh's birthday came 3 days later, and he prepared a banquet for all his officials and staff. He summoned his chief cupbearer and chief baker to join the other officials. He then restored the chief cupbearer to his former position, and so he could again hand Pharaoh's cup. But Pharaoh impaled the chief baker just as Joseph had predicted when he interpreted his dream. Pharaoh's chief cupbearer, however, forgot all about Joseph, never giving him another thought. So Joseph says, I will interpret your dream. He interprets it, and when he does, it's good. It's good for the cupbearer. And he says, I only ask one thing in return of you. Remember me when things are going well between you and Pharaoh. But Pharaoh's chief cupbearer forgot all about Joseph, never giving him another thought.
And how many times did we do that?
Oh, I have the memory, the length of a sweet pea. I mean, my memory lasts about 2 seconds.
But we do something, or somebody does something, and we tell them, you don't owe me nothing, just remember me. And it's like we never thought of it again. It's like I have numerous people with car problems, and it's what do I owe you? Well, if I have a problem, help me. But then if you call somebody or whatever, oh, I'm busy, I can't do it, or I've even seen people I know ride by me, and I just slow down. So it's like, we think of people for the moment, but then it's all over with.
Yeah.
Whatever they did for us was just taken for granted. And, okay, you had no part of helping me, so I'm done with you.
Yeah. So now Joseph's interpreted dreams, and now Pharaoh's going to have a dream in chapter 41. Excuse me. 2 full years later. So Joseph has been in prison for 2 years still, after the end of verse 40. He's been in prison for 2 years for something he did not do. And 2 years.
2 years for something he was accused.
Yeah.
And I guess so many different ways with that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to leave it alone.
So 2 full years later, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing on the bank of the Nile River. In his dream, he saw 7 fat, healthy cows come up out of the river and begin grazing in the marsh grass. Then he saw 7 more cows come up behind them from the Nile, but these were scrawny and thin. These cows stood beside the fat cows on the riverbank. Then the scrawny, thin cows ate the 7 healthy fat cows. At this point in the dream, Pharaoh woke up. But he fell asleep again and had a second dream. This time he saw 7 heads of grain, plump and beautiful, growing on a single stalk. Then 7 more heads of grain appeared, but these were shriveled and withered by the east wind. And these thin heads swallowed up the 7 plump heads, plump, well-formed heads. Then Pharaoh woke up again and realized it was a dream. The next morning, Pharaoh was very disturbed by the dream, so he called all magicians and wise men of Egypt. When Pharaoh told them his dreams, not one of them could come up with what he meant, could tell him what they meant.
Yeah.
Finally, the king's chief cupbearer, here's this guy,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
spoke up. Today I've been
I
reminded.
remember something.
Yeah, I've been reminded of my failure, he told Pharaoh. Some time ago, you were angry with the chief baker and me, and you imprisoned us in this place of the captain of the guard, in the palace of the captain of the guard. One night, the chief baker and I each had a dream, and each dream had its own meaning. There was a young Hebrew man with us in the prison, who was a slave of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he told us what each of our dreams meant, and everything happened just as he had predicted. I was restored to my position as cupbearer, and the chief baker was executed and impaled on a pole. Pharaoh sent for Joseph at once, and he was quickly brought from the prison. After he shaved and changed his clothes, he went in and stood before Pharaoh. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream last night, and no one here can tell me what it means. But I have heard that when you hear about a dream, you can interpret it. It is beyond my power to do this, Joseph replied. But God can tell you what it meant and set you at ease. So Pharaoh told Joseph his dream. In my dream, he said, I was standing on the bank of the Nile River, and I saw 7 fat, healthy cows come up out of the river. And they began grazing in the marsh grass. But then I saw 7 sick-looking cows, scrawny and thin, come up after them. I've never seen such sorry-looking animals in all the land of Egypt. These thin, scrawny cows ate the 7 fat cows, but afterward you wouldn't have known it, for they were still as thin and scrawny as before. Then I woke up. In my dream, I also saw 7 heads of grain, full of beautiful, growing on a single stalk. Then 7 more heads of grain appeared, but these were blighted and shriveled and withered by the east wind. And the shriveled heads swallowed the 7 healthy heads. I told these dreams to the magicians, but no one could tell me what they mean. Joseph responded, both of Pharaoh's dreams mean the same thing. God is telling Pharaoh in advance what he is about to do. The 7 healthy cows and the 7 healthy heads of grain both represent 7 years of prosperity. The 7 thin, scrawny cows that came up after the 7 thin heads of grain, withered by the east wind, represent 7 years of famine. This will happen just as I have described, for God has revealed to Pharaoh in advance what he is about to do. The next 7 years will be a period of great prosperity through the land of Egypt. But afterward there will be 7 years of famine, so great that all the prosperity will be forgotten in Egypt. Famine will destroy the land. This famine will be so severe that even the memory of the good years will be erased. As for having 2 similar dreams, it means that these events have been decreed by God and he will soon make them happen. Therefore, Pharaoh should find an intelligent and wise man and put him in charge of the entire land of Egypt. The Pharaoh should appoint supervisors over the land and let them collect 1/5 of all the crops during the 7 good years. Have them gather all the food produced in the good years that are just ahead and bring it to Pharaoh's storehouses. Store it away and guard it, so there will be found in the cities. So there will be food in the cities. That way there will be enough to eat when 7 years of famine come to the land of Egypt. Otherwise, this famine will destroy the land. Pharaoh's got some decisions to make.
He got some big decisions to make. Is he going to trust him and what he's interpreted? Or is he just going to, just nonsense?
Yeah. So, verse 37. This is a long chapter.
Yeah.
Um,
It is.
but we're almost there. Joseph's suggestions were well received by Pharaoh and his officials. So Pharaoh asked his officials, "Can we find anyone else like this man, so obviously filled with the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has revealed the meaning of the dreams to you, clearly no one else is as intelligent or wise as you are. You will be in charge of my court, and all my people will take orders from you. Only I, sitting on my throne, will have a rank higher than yours." So there it is. Pharaoh says, "You're in charge. Only I am over you." Yeah. So let's see. I'm going to kind of skip around here a little bit.
So meanwhile, Joseph stayed faithful, living through all that he's been through. And then once again, he's been put basically to the right hand.
Yeah. So Pharaoh puts Joseph in a chariot and basically rides around shouting his shouting a command for people to kneel down, and then letting everyone know that Pharaoh had put Joseph in charge of all of Egypt. So Pharaoh says to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, but no one will lift a hand or foot in the entire land of Egypt without your approval." So you're not even going to raise your hand without getting approval from Joseph.
That's a lot of power.
Yeah, it is. So this man that his brothers had plotted murder on him, and then they thought, well, we'll just throw him in his cistern. And then they said, well, let's sell him into slavery. Let's sell it. Let's get something out of it at least.
Yeah, let's get something out of it.
He was sold as a slave. He's gone to Egypt. He was framed.
But he was sold in Egypt.
And he was framed and then put in prison. Kept his faith. And soon became basically the leader of the prison. But here he is now, 2 years later, and he has more power than anyone in Egypt aside from Pharaoh. Tell me God don't know what he's doing.
I'll tell you. Stay faithful. Ain't gonna tell me what God will do with you.
So during this time, before the first of the famine years, 2 sons were born to Joseph and his wife. Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera,
Yes, give her.
the priest of On. Joseph named his older son Manasseh, where he said, "God has made me forget all my troubles and everyone in my family, everyone in my father's family." Joseph named his second son Ephraim, where he said, "God has made me fruitful in this land of my grief." So Joseph got married. He was married to an Egyptian woman. Where is it? Zephinath Paneah. Yeah. No. That was it. Sorry. That was the name that Pharaoh gave Joseph. Zephinath Paneah. He also gave him a wife whose name was Asenath. She was the daughter of Potiphera, the priest of On. So, and then they had 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim.
I can't help you with this.
Manasseh and Ephraim. So yeah, Joseph's faith has finally paid out. So let's go to 42. Joseph's brothers go to Egypt. So
I'll skip ahead a little bit, so I can back up.
where are you?
Go ahead.
So basically, they had their 7 years of good harvests, and now they have gone into
Yeah, 47, so during 7 years of plentiful, land produced abundantly. The land produced abundantly.
yeah.
48. So they collected all the foods of these 7 years, which acquired the land. Acquired in the lands of Egypt and put food in the cities.
Yeah. It even says he piled up huge amounts of grain like sand on the seashore.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Finally, he stopped keeping records because there was way too much to measure.
And he's only putting away 1/5.
1/5,
Yeah,
yeah.
can you imagine how much you're producing?
Yeah. Well, they said it was, I mean, he said it was going to be very prosperous, very plentiful. But now we're into famine. And it not only hit Egypt, but also the surrounding communities, which would be Jacob's, Joseph's father, Jacob. He would be in that famine area. Let's see. Yeah, so people were crying to Pharaoh for food, and Pharaoh says, "Go to Joseph and do everything he tells you." So Joseph opened up the storehouses and distributed grain to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe enough throughout the land of Egypt. So people came from all around. They came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph because the famine was so severe. And Joseph was smart enough to be able to put stuff back and have stuff put back for this famine. But at 42, chapter 42, when Jacob heard that grain was available in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why are you standing around looking at one another? Why are you standing there like not a lot? I've heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy enough grain to keep us alive. Otherwise we'll die. Need food, or we're going to die."
Need food,
So Joseph's 10 older brothers went down to Egypt to buy grain. But Jacob wouldn't let Joseph's younger brother Benjamin go with them, for fear some harm might come to him. So Jacob's sons arrived in Egypt along with others to buy food, for the famine was in Canaan as well. Alright. Since Joseph was governor of all Egypt and in charge of selling grain to all the people, it was to him that his brothers came. When they arrived, they bowed before him with their faces to the ground. Sound familiar? Joseph recognized his brothers instantly, but he pretended to be a stranger and spoke harshly to them. "Where are you from?" he demanded.
Let's back a little bit right there.
Okay.
So you made a good point. Does that sound familiar? Where did we hear that before?
His dreams.
He told them that what his dreams was, that they would bow before him. And they pretty much got mad at him for the dreams and mocked him and sold him off, get rid of him. And now what are they doing?
They're bowing down before him.
Either our younger brother agrees to sell us grain, we're going to die.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, what goes around comes around.
Yep. And remember, the first dream that he had were I think seven,
Stops in the field.
seven, I don't remember, but it was seven. And there were seven, yeah, I think it was stops in the field that were bowing before the one stock.
Right.
And he had seven brothers.
Right.
And the other one was, I forget what it was.
Well, I don't remember now either. But it came out the same thing. His father would even be dying.
Yeah, but it was the same thing, but it was also his, the sun and the moon and 11 stars bowed before me.
Right.
And then the first one was, we're in the field tying up bundles of grain. Suddenly my bundles stood up, and your bundles all gathered around and bowed low before mine.
Right.
So
he warned them.
yeah.
You better do it, Dave, because this is what's going to happen.
Well, I don't know that it was really a warning. It was just like, hey, listen to this dream that I had.
Yeah. But
I don't think that even
I don't think he
Joseph,
realized it either, but
yeah, I don't think that even Joseph realized what exactly was going on.
No,
He just saw it as,
I don't think he
well, that's
realized
interesting.
it, but I think God was revealing it, even though he didn't interpret it.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, just bear with me, stay faithful. This is going to happen.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll go in there.
No, you're fine. So he said, he asked them where they're from. They said, we're from Canaan. We've come to buy food. Obviously, Joseph recognized them. He knew who they were. And he remembered his dreams that he had many years before. And he says to them, you're spies. You've come to see how vulnerable our land has become. And they said, no, my lord, they exclaimed. Your servants had simply come to buy food. Then Reuben said to his father, wait, hold on, what did I just do?
Where you at? I done lost you.
Oh, I flipped 2 pages. I thought that was weird. They said, we are all brothers, members of the same family. We are honest men, sir. We are not spies. And Joseph says, yes, you are. You have come to see how vulnerable our land has become. Sir, they said, there are actually 12 of us. We, your servants, are all brothers, sons of a man living in the land of Canaan. Our youngest brother is back there with our father right now, and one of our brothers is no longer with us. But Joseph insisted, as I said, you are all spies. This is how I will test your story. I swear by the life of Pharaoh that if you never leave Egypt, that you will never leave Egypt, unless your youngest brother comes here. One of you must go and get your brother. I'll keep the rest of you here in prison. Then we'll find out whether or not your story is true. By the life of Pharaoh, if it turns out that you don't have a younger brother, then I'll know you were spies. So Joseph put them all in prison for 3 days.
He called them out.
He put them all in prison for 3 days. On the 3rd day, Joseph said to them, I am a God-fearing man. If you do as I say, you will live. If you really are honest men, choose one of your brothers to remain in prison. The rest of you may go home with your grain for your starving families. But you must bring your youngest brother back to me. This will prove that you are telling the truth and you will not die. To this they agreed. So it's kind of humorous, but it's also not.
No, it is kind of humorous because
yeah, I mean, it's
the background of the story, but there again, it's kind of sad too.
Yeah. I just you're spies. You're spies. All the time he knows that they're not spies. He knows exactly who they are.
who they are. Yeah.
But then, let's see. Where was I? So he puts them in prison. They figure out.
21, right?
He says that
They did so.
clearly we're being punished. what we did to Joseph long ago. We saw his anguish when he pleaded for his life, but we wouldn't listen. And that's why we're in this trouble. Well, kind of.
Yeah, thank you.
And then, of course, Reuben, I told you we shouldn't do that.
Well, Reuben was the one that didn't want to kill him from the beginning.
Yeah, Reuben, that's what I said. Reuben was, telling him, I told you we didn't need to do that.
Mhm.
He was the one that was going to go back and get him out of the cistern.
I told you. We don't ever hear that today.
And it says, of course, they didn't know that Joseph understood them, for he had not been speaking to them through an interpreter. For he had been speaking to them through an interpreter. Now he turned away from them and began to weep. When he regained his composure, he spoke to them again. Then he chose Simeon from among them and had him tied up right before their eyes. So he tells, then Joseph gets his servants to fill them in a sack with grain. But he also gives them instructions to return each brother's payment at the top of his sack. And also gave them some extra supplies for their journey home. Excuse me. My throat is so dry. And then, so of course, they loaded their donkey and they head home. And they stopped for the night. They opened their sacks of grain, and of course, there's their money on top.
Yeah, you get your money.
Yeah. And then the one that found the money says, look, my money's been returned. It's here in my sack. Then their hearts sank, trembling. They said to each other, what has God done to us? That's one that I think, I've thought that, I've had that thought before. So they get their father Jacob. They tell him what's going on. This guy has sent us back. We got to take our youngest son, or our youngest brother. He's got Simeon. If we take our youngest brother with us, I can't remember his name. We take our youngest brother back with us, and he'll let Simeon go, and we can buy more grain. So they tell their father, they tell Jacob all that's going on. Let's see.
I'll get you with you.
And so when they empty their sacks, of course they find in every sack the bag of money was at the top. And the brothers and their father were terrified when they saw the bags of money. And Jacob says to them, you're robbing me of one of my children. Joseph is gone, Simeon is gone, and now you want to take Benjamin too. Everything is going against me. So here's Jacob. He just wants to keep his son safe.
Yeah.
And then let's see, Reuben. Here comes Reuben stepping up again. Says to his father, you may kill my two sons if I don't bring Benjamin back to you. I'll be responsible for him, and I promise to bring him back. But Jacob says, my son will not go down with you. His brother Joseph is dead, and he is all I have left. If anything should happen to him on your journey, you would send this grieving, white-haired man to his grave.
He didn't realize he was sending his youngest son to be back with Joseph.
Yes.
Son.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to kind of just
Says he could probably have my son Joseph.
hit the basics because we're already an hour and 15 minutes.
Joseph is gone. Simon is gone. And now you would take Benjamin.
Yeah.
All these things are against me. In respect to his father, he may put my two sons to death if I don't return. Now that's saying a lot
Oh, yeah.
to Benjamin. I say Benjamin was not the one that wanted to kill him to start with. He wanted to free him. And now Benjamin's willing to put his own two sons' lives up to say, Father, trust me. I will bring your youngest back.
Let's see. So, they had some grain, but the famine continued in Canaan, and the grain was almost gone. Jacob said to his sons, "Go back and buy us a little more food." And Judah tells him, "Hey, look, this man was serious when he told us you won't even see my face again unless your brother is with you."
Yeah.
So basically, they talked him into
Extremely wondrous.
they talked him into letting Benjamin go with them. And then basically when they get there, let's see. Yeah, when they get there, Joseph sees that they have Benjamin with them, and tells his manager, tells the manager of his household, "These men will eat with me this noon. Take them inside the palace and go slaughter an animal and prepare a big feast." So, and of course, the brothers were terrified when they saw that they were being taken into Joseph's house. It's because of the money someone put in our sack last time we were here. They said, he plans to pretend we stole it, and then he will seize us and make us slaves and take our donkeys. So yeah, that, of course, that's not exactly what Joseph was doing, but I understand why they thought maybe he was going to do that.
Oh, yeah. But if you go back and tell him, I don't want your money, I want my brother.
Yeah. So they tell the manager of Joseph's household what happened, and he basically says, "Look, relax, don't be scared. And like your God of your father, must have put this treasure in your sack because I know I received your payment." Then they released Simeon, brought him to the table. Let's see. And then Joseph. Yeah, when Joseph came home, they gave him the gifts that they had brought him, then bowed low to the ground before him. After greeting them, he asked, "How is your father, the old man that you spoke about? Is he still alive?" "Yes," they replied. "Our father, your servant, is alive and well," and they bowed low again. So Joseph's asking about his father. He looks at Benjamin. And of course, is this the young brother, the youngest brother you were telling me about? he says, "May God be gracious to you, my son." And then Joseph runs away from the room because he was overcome with grief or emotion for his brother. And then, of course, they bring out food, they eat, and then
It's actually they gave them water, gave them food, and washed their feet.
yeah. So I mean that's pretty much it there. And then we get to chapter 44.
And they donkeys food.
Yeah, and we get to chapter 44 when they were ready to leave, and then Joseph gave instructions to his palace manager. All right, here are the instructions: fill each of their sacks with as much grain as they can carry. Put each man's money back into his sack, and put my personal silver cup at the top of the youngest brother's sack, along with the money for his grain. So that's what he did.
Back up one step. When they came back, they brought the money from the sacks with more money
Yeah,
because they didn't know what to do with the money.
yeah.
So they brought it back. They said, we don't know who to put money back in
Yeah,
the
and
sacks.
then that's when the manager of Jacob's household said, "Relax, don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Your God must have put this treasure in your sacks because I know that I received your payments."
Yeah, he said, I received your payment. So now they're really scared because we're coming back and buy more food, and somebody put our money back in the sacks first time. So now are you missing the money? I think we're thieves.
Yeah, and he put his personal silver cup in the top of the youngest brother's.
Right.
Of course, they woke up at dawn. They were sent on their journey with their loaded donkeys. When they had gone only a short distance, they were barely out of the city. Joseph said to the palace manager, "Chase after them and stop them. When you catch up with them, ask them, 'Why have you repaid my kindness with such evil? Why have you stolen my master's silver cup?' When he uses, which he uses to predict the future. What a wicked thing you have done." So he's telling his manager, "Go out, buy them, ask them why they would repay my kindness with such evil."
Right. Stealing cup.
Yeah, when Joseph's the one that told them to put it
Right.
in the beginning. So he caught up to them, spoke to them as he had been instructed. And the brothers are like, "What are you talking about?
Yeah, we ain't got no cup. What are you talking about?
We're your servants. We would never do such a thing. Didn't we return the money we found in our sacks?" Let's see. They say, "If you find his cup with any of us, let that man die, and all the rest of us, my Lord, will be your slaves."
Mm.
So they're like, "Yeah, yeah." And the manager says, "That's fair. But only the one who stole the cup will be my slave, and the rest of you may go free." They all took their sacks off their donkeys, opened them up. Of course, the manager searches all of them, from oldest to the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack, obviously. When the brothers saw this, they tore their clothing in despair. There's that again.
Yeah. And anger. Yes.
They loaded their donkeys again and returned to the city. Joseph was still in his palace when Judah and his brothers arrived. They fell to the ground before him. "What have you done?" Joseph demanded. "Don't you know that a man like me can predict the future?" And Judah answered, "Oh my Lord, what can we say to you? How can we explain this? How can we prove our innocence? God is punishing us for our sins, Lord. Or, my Lord, we have all returned to be your slaves, all of us, not just our brother who had your cup in his sack." "No," Joseph said, "I would never do such a thing. Only the man who stole the cup will be my slave. The rest of you may go back to your father."
So that is your brother.
And you have to know that Joseph understands that his brothers cannot go back to his father without Benjamin.
Right. Because he's been told not to come back without him, basically, or with it. How do you put it?
One of the brothers, I think it was Judah, said that if we don't return with Benjamin, you can kill my two sons.
Yeah.
So they're not going to go back without Benjamin. Let's see. So basically, they tell him this. Judah tells Joseph all of this, and let's see. So he tells him what happened, tells him that, we can't go, tells him he told his father, we can't go back without Benjamin. He says, I can't go back to our father without the boy. Our father's life is bound up in that boy's life. If he sees the boy is not with us, our father will die. We, your servants, will indeed be responsible for sending that grieving white-haired man to his grave. So it's basically him pleading with Joseph, look, don't make us go back without Benjamin.
Joseph kind of got him over a barrel because of the way they treated him as being the younger son.
Yeah. And Joseph already knows all of this stuff that's going on.
Right, Joseph already knows about it. So he's kind of got him over a barrel. It's kind of like, okay, this the way you hated me and sold me off, I kind of got you over a barrel now. Because all his older brothers, except for Benjamin, hated him and wanted to kill him.
So then we go on to 45. So Joseph could stand no longer. He tells everybody to get out. And when he was alone with his brothers, he told them who he was. And he broke down and wept. He wept so loudly the Egyptians could hear him, and word of it quickly carried to Pharaoh's palace. I am Joseph, he said to his brothers. Is my father still alive? But his brothers were speechless. They were stunned to realize that Joseph was standing there in front of them. Please come closer, he said to them. So they came closer, and he said again, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into slavery in Egypt. But don't be upset and don't be angry with yourselves for selling me to this place. It was God who sent me here ahead of you to preserve your lives. This famine that has ravaged the land for 2 years will last 5 more years. And there will be neither plowing nor harvesting. God has sent me ahead of you to keep you and your families alive and to preserve many survivors. So it was God who sent me here, not you. And he is the one who made me an advisor to Pharaoh, the manager of the entire palace, and the governor of all Egypt. Now hurry back my father and tell him, this is what your son Joseph says. God has made me master over all the land of Egypt. So come down to me immediately. You can live in the region of Goshen, where you can be near me with all your children and grandchildren, your flocks and herds, and everything you own. I will take care of you for there are still 5 years of famine ahead of us. Otherwise, you and your household and all of your animals will starve. And then, let's see. So he tells them to go tell his father and bring them back, bring his father back with them. And he says, look, don't be scared, don't be angry with yourself, don't think that, don't be upset, don't be scared of what I'm going to do to you. Because you guys are not the ones that sent me here. God sent me here so that I could save your lives.
Yeah, and that's the big picture. We can't see what God has in store for us.
Yeah.
We don't know what's coming up. I was kind of thinking about this morning when we were in service. Even though we don't know what's coming up, God does. And God foresees. Now here the brothers, he's telling them, don't blame yourself. Because at this time they're probably thinking, okay, because of what we did, this is how we're paying for it. Well, if God had not put this plan into action, then they would all be starving. So God knew what he was doing. So they didn't really, they really shouldn't blame themselves for what happened, although we have to think, okay, well, they didn't have to sell him as a slave, but without this plan coming together, God's plan couldn't have been fulfilled. I know it's kind of hard to see it that way sometimes, but it's like we were talking this morning, when they were, like, this is Palm Sunday, and Jesus was starting his road to crucifixion. How would we have acted? Would we have been there to save him, or would we have been there to condemn him? I would like to think I've been there to try to save him, but at the same time, without his crucifixion or death, then there would have been no bloodshed for our sins. We would not have seen Christ conquer death. So therefore, things would have been a lot different. So sometimes we might want to blame ourselves, but sometimes we've got to stand back and think, okay, if this had not happened, then God's plan would have been fulfilled. Just like here. If he had not have been hated by his brothers, and he would not have been thrown into, my Bible says, pit, and he would not have been sold, and there again, he wouldn't have been sold again in Egypt. He would not have been thrown into prison. He would not have gained trust and power. And then he came back to, was it Pharaoh? He would not have been able to interpret his dreams. Therefore, he would not have been able to, would not have been put ahead of all the fields. He would not have been able to stock back all the food. And therefore, he would not have been able to take care of the lands, including his family.
And we're almost to the end here. We're almost.
And I'm prolonging it more.
No. You're fine. Because I don't want it to be just me reading. But we're an hour and a half now. We would be 3 hours easily if I read everything. So that's why I just kind of skipping over.
Well, like I said,
Hit it in more.
like I said at the very beginning, I have a very hard time with comprehension when I read. But I do remember back, and I'm sure there's more people out there that's like me. Not everybody is copying everything off that. So I like to backtrack on stuff and try to relive things and see things. And so anyway, maybe I'm helpful to somebody.
But so the news gets to Pharaoh that Jacob's brothers are here, or Joseph's brothers are here. And Pharaoh says, well, your father has to come. Your father has to be here. And basically sends all of this stuff, sends to Jacob with Joseph's brothers. everything that he needs to bring everything and everyone that he has to Egypt. Basically, we're going to skip around. So there's land that's given to Jacob, Goshen, and that's where Jacob and his family lived out the rest of Jacob's life. Let's see. So Jacob finally meets his grandkids, his grandsons from Jacob's sons.
It's like a big family reunion.
Yeah. Let's see. Ephraim and Manasseh, born in the land of Egypt before I arrived. They will be my sons, just as Reuben and Simeon are. But any children born to you in the future will be your own. Let's see. There's a part in there I wanted to read. That's why. Let's see. Joseph was upset when he saw that his father placed his right hand on Ephraim's head. So Joseph lifted it to move it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. No, my father, he said. This one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head. But his father refused. I know, my son, I know, he replied. Manasseh will also become a great people, but his younger brother will become even greater, and his descendants will become a multitude of nations. So Jacob blessed the boys that day with this blessing. The people of Israel will use your names when they give a blessing. They will say, may God make you as prosperous as Ephraim and Manasseh. And in this way, Jacob put Ephraim ahead of Manasseh. Then Jacob said to Joseph, look, I am about to die, but God will be with you and will take you back to Canaan, the land of your ancestors, and beyond what I have given your brothers, I have given you an extra portion of the land that I took from the Amorites with my own sword and bow. And then, so Jacob is blessing his grandsons, but he is saying that Manasseh will also become a great people, but his younger brother Ephraim will become even greater, and his descendants will become a multitude of nations. And I think, of course, Jacob then died. It doesn't say how long after. The way it describes him, though, he was not doing very well when he blessed Ephraim and Manasseh. And then, let's see. So yeah, they took him to and buried him with his father and grandfather in a cave back in Canaan. So he did make his way back to Canaan. Yeah, I think that's where we're going to end, because there's really not a whole lot.
No, that pretty much tells the story. But just to know that there was a whole lot behind Jacob's life.
This says that Joseph died at the age of 110. And the Egyptians embalmed him, and his body was placed in a coffin in Egypt. Yeah.
112.
112. Sold as a slave at 16 and died at 110, not 12. So yeah.
Yeah, sold as a slave. 16 or 17. I thought it was 17.
This is 16.
16 or 17.
Yeah. Young.
Very young. I mean, everything he went through in his life. But yeah, he never lost his faith. He never lost his trust.
Even when he came face to face with his brothers, and they knew who he was, they said, "Don't worry about, don't hate yourself because you sold me. You're not the ones that sent me here. God sent me here to save you."
To have that kind of forgiveness and
Yeah.
train of thought, that's I pray for that.
Yeah.
The purity of his heart, no anger.
Yeah.
I strive harder and harder every day for that.
Yeah. So it's so much more than a story about jealousy.
Oh, much more than just jealousy.
So much more. Yes, they were jealous, and that's part of, but in my eyes, such a small part of the story. It's also a story about faith, having courage to follow God blindly.
Even through the valleys, when you're in the lowest, when you're in the prisons.
Realizing, being able to step back from yourself, the situation that you're in, and examine it and see that, okay, this is tough, but this is where God wants me.
I'm
going to make the best.
Accused him of these things. The Bible didn't say he fought back.
No, it doesn't.
He accepted it and went on.
Yeah. So it's a story about jealousy, about faith, about having the courage to follow God blindly, about patience, forgiveness, love. It is so much more than just a story about jealousy. And I thought that it was a story worth exploring, and I'm glad that I did explore it because
I'm glad we went into it.
I learned a lot from.
I mean, I had heard the story of the coat. I had heard the story of the grain.
Yeah.
But I never put two together.
Yeah.
So this was a good study for me.
Yeah, it was really good. So I think we're gonna leave it there, and yeah. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. So we'll.
Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you learned something.
Yeah. Either the video before this or the video after this is going to be some music.
Good, bad, or whatever.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
And let me just say something really quick here, and I'm sure Corey will agree with me. We're going to try to pick out songs with meaning to them. So don't take the artist or the singer for what they are, or what they might have done in their past or anything. Take the song itself and listen to it and see what you can get out of it. And that's what we're going to try to do. We'll try to break the song down. Because as humans, we all fail. We all make mistakes. And I've heard people say, oh, you shouldn't listen to that song because such and such is singing it. Da, da, da. Well, don't listen to the artist, listen to the song. Listen to the words, whether it be old hymns, whether it be contemporary, whether it be rap or whatever. Now, I was one that always said I didn't like rap. I never did like rap. But then I got listening to some of the Christian rap, and I did like some of it. I still don't like a lot of it because they rap too fast for me and my mind won't comprehend it. But I do like some raps. So don't turn away from a type of music because of what it is, especially when it comes to this kind of stuff. Listen to the words.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So put in your suggestions for music you want us to listen to,
Absolutely.
and
Or how you want, or, yeah, not just what you want to listen to, but what you won't break down. Let us try to explain what it means, what we're saying, what the background of it.
well, we can break it down how we see it.
Well, how we see it, yeah. Yeah, that's
We
it.
can't break it down the way the artist wrote it.
No, the way we see it, yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this one. See you later.
Real quick prayer.
Yeah.
Don't forget to pray for us as we're studying for this. Pray for us for wisdom and knowledge. And I've been asking everybody lately to pray for me for wisdom and knowledge. I don't pray for help and all that kind of stuff, but I know God's got it under control. He's going to take care of it. But I do want more wisdom and knowledge. So pray for us as we try to study and as we try to prepare, and in our everyday lives as well as we're trying to pray for you. And we'll just
Because I don't even know what our next episode's gonna be. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It may just be hey, let's sit down and talk about this for a little while.
Might be. But yeah, we really haven't discussed.
Or we might have guests.
Well, we do have one set maybe next time. But yeah, we haven't talked about anything yet, so just pray that God will lead us into something or give us some suggestions, and we'll try to fall into that. So, with nothing else said, our Father in heaven, we thank you, Lord, for this beautiful day you've given us. We thank you, Lord, for the breath of life. Lord, you've allowed me to see almost 65 years now, Lord, and the many blessings you've given me through these years. God, please help me be able to spread that to others and show them, Lord, that you do still create miracles every day. Father, forgive us for any sins, guide us and direct us in the name of Christ. Amen.
Yeah.